everyone. I've been working with QuickBooks Online for a really long time, and so I'm constantly looking for ways to try and improve my workflow and save some time. I just through the process of internet searching and making mistakes, I have stumbled upon a number of shortcuts. So in today's video, I am going to share 5 of those shortcuts with you, some of which I've shared before in other videos. I'll link to some of them so you can dive a little bit deeper, but I think these can really help you save some time. My name is Veronica Canna. I'm a CPA, a CFA, and the founder of Montreal Financial, where you can find lots of resources for your small business and lots of QuickBooks resources. Okay, so let us begin. Shortcut number 1 is in terms of finding transactions. And I do this all the time. I enter a transaction and then I, click on the enter button or the record button, and then it just kind of disappears and I want to find it. And of course, I could go to the reports if I remember, what the transaction is. But a much easier way of doing this is to simply go up here and find the transaction that you just entered, which will appear right on the top over here. And so you have all of the transactions up to a certain point. You can click on Show More, and it will show you all of these transactions by date, and you can select filters. Alternatively, you can simply just do an advanced search. So if you have the number, for example, you made a deposit for an X amount, and as long as it matches exactly, you can once again click on this, click the amount, and click apply, and hopefully it will find it. It doesn't always find it, but 95% of the time it will. Similarly, you can select a date range, transaction type, name of the supplier, customer, etc. And so this is a really, really useful way of finding transactions without having to dig into the reports or go into the specific subledger. And I do have another video on this, but in that video, this was prior to QuickBooks changing the interface, which they really like to do for some reason. And they had a little search, a little magnifying glass on the right here, which accomplished the exact same thing. So depending on whether you're using the new interface or the old interface, you would go over here. Okay, so let's look at tip number 2, which is creating bookmarks. And so with the new interface, I have found it much more useful to start to save bookmarks. So for example, my sales tax is now under my apps. And if I go to sales tax here, and I click on it, and you can see overview, I can click on the bookmark, and this will ensure that it goes over here. Similarly, if I'm often going to my invoices, I just go to the sales section over here and I see invoices, and I just click on the little bookmark next to it. And then if I go to bookmarks, you'll see that it appears here. So this is best for functions that you access regularly in QuickBooks. Another good one is bank transactions. I'm in bank transactions every day for myself or for clients. And so I just click on that again, rather than having to navigate and go through where I could find the bank transactions. And you'll see here that they have this whole new sort of AI interface, which you can accustom yourself with. If you do want a video on this, and if you're interested in learning more, just let me know in the comments and I can certainly do that. Okay, so the third shortcut is the keyboard shortcut that I'm going to show you. So sometimes you are in, for example, your bank reconciliation and you realize you haven't entered a transaction, you missed something, or you don't necessarily want to go to the left-hand side menu, but you want to create a new invoice. And in order to do that, you simply have to click on Control, Alt, and I, and it will open up a new invoice. I find this very interesting. I learned about this recently, and this has already helped me save some time in terms of creating invoices, especially for me when I'm doing bank reconciliations. And so similarly, for an expense, you can do the exact same thing, but instead of Control-Alt-I, you can use Control-Alt-X. So if you click on Control-Alt-X, it will open up a new expense directly within QuickBooks. And there are a number of these other Control-Alt shortcuts. Control-Alt-E, for example, does estimates, and there's a few others, so you can actually familiarize yourself with them just by doing a simple search and finding out what those are. Okay, so the fourth shortcut that I am going to share with you is one of my absolute favorites. It's very simple and it's very small, but I discovered this many, many years ago in QuickBooks Desktop, and they carry this over to QuickBooks Online. So I'm just going to click on Control-Alt-I to create an invoice, just using our newly found knowledge. And here I'm going to scroll down and say that I want to charge my customer for 5 hours of work at $100 an hour. You can simply put in the quantity and rate here, but if you don't want to do that, you can also do a calculation directly in this field. And so you would click 5, choose a multiply symbol on your keyboard, times 100, and then press Tab, and it automatically calculates it here. And so again, you don't have to go outside of QuickBooks, open up your calculator or an Excel sheet, and then do the calculation there. You can just simply do it here. You can literally do this in any field, whether you're doing an expense or a journal entry or anything else that you are entering manually like this. You can do the calculation directly in the amount field. And time-saving shortcut is on copying an invoice. And let's say my invoice is going to be very similar to this invoice. I'm going to click on this invoice, click on More Actions here, and simply click on Duplicate. And so I will duplicate the invoice. This comes up, which is, and you'll see that this QuickBooks says it's a copy of an invoice, and then you can just go in and re-enter the information. So say now the customer is Hooper Inc., and so it gives me the information for Hooper Inc. It's still surveillance, Scotland Yard Services. You can save and close, and it will enter it as a new invoice. And finally, one bonus tip, because this is in fact another one of my favorite shortcuts, and I think it's really, really useful, is that you can open these functions in QuickBooks in new tabs. And for me, this is such a huge time saver. So say I'm going to my reports. So I go to my balance sheet and say I want to check my profit for the year. I would simply go back to reports and right click here, open link in new tab. And this is in Windows. I'm not sure what the Mac equivalent is, but I'm sure you can easily find that. And then click on profit and loss. And now this way I have both windows open, and I can open as many windows as I want. Not everything can be opened in a new window or a new tab, but most things can. And this again is an incredible time saver rather than just clicking back and then coming back to the report. And a lot of people don't know this. So again, I think this can be hugely time saving. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions or if you found any shortcuts that you find useful, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear them. And please like and subscribe. Have a great day.